The Trump administration continues to escalate ICE's enforcement across the United States, including in Boston and Chicago. Both cities are bracing for immigration raids in the upcoming weeks after border czar Tom Homan promised to ramp up operations. This comes as ICE tactics and conditions continue to face backlash. Our own Laura Barone-Lopez has new reporting out of an ICE field office in Chantilly, Virginia, the latest facility facing criticism that appears to be a direct result of the administration's ramped-up arrests in Washington, D.C. According to accounts shared with her, the inhumane conditions people faced included only one meal a day that consisted of a single burrito, some 40 to 90 people at a time crammed into a single room with no beds, and some detainees held as long as 7 days with no ability to bathe. Joining us now is Andrea Flores, Vice President of Immigration Policy at Campaigns at Forward.us. Thanks so much for joining us. But Laura, first, can you share a little bit with us about your exclusive reporting you've got inside that ICE facility with multiple firsthand accounts of what's going on there?
Very disturbing accounts. I think what's key to understand about this ICE facility is it is the Washington field office. It is in Chantilly, Virginia, but it services the DMV area. And so the arrests that are being made in D.C. because of President Trump's takeover, the increased ICE presence, HSI, those are Homeland Security investigative agents, and others, the immigration-related arrests they're making, those people are being sent to this ICE field office in Chantilly. It is a processing facility. It is not meant for long-term detention, but because of the sheer number and increase of people being arrested now in D.C., the lawyers that I talk to who have clients that were held there say that the conditions have grown increasingly dire and horrible, as you laid out, Jackie, from my report. One meal a day, no ability to clean themselves, and no access to their lawyers. One of the undocumented immigrants that was arrested during the second week of the takeover alongside of his father was held there for about 6 days. This undocumented immigrant that I spoke to, though, was released after a day, although he only was offered one meal. But when he was talking about the takeover to me, this is what he said, and I want to read it. He said, "They want all of us out of this country. They don't care if we are hardworking people or not. They just want to kick us out." And that made me feel bad because, I mean, I think we help a lot of people right here in construction. Andrea, he and his father work in construction. They feel as though they're part of this community in D.C., but this takeover has left them feeling as though they don't really have a home anymore. What are you hearing from the community here in D.C. since this takeover has started?
So I think there's obviously betrayal, but there's not surprise. I mean, President Trump campaigned on this. People really normalized mass deportations. They made it seem as though it was just about chaos maybe people had seen at the border. People didn't tell the story of what mass deportations were really going to entail. And they didn't listen to a lot of experts and advocates who said, if you really want to do this, you have to go into a community, send more law enforcement. You have to rip people away from from schools, from churches, from places of work. And the problem with that is that we don't right now have a counter narrative to the president's, right? So you hear from these poor people who are in detention telling their story. Where are the lawmakers reminding everybody that there's nothing in the law that would protect a construction worker to stay here right now? Because it's been broken. There's no legal pathway for that worker. So yes, his feeling is that we don't want him here, but our economy depends on him, but Congress hasn't given him any way to stay. And that's really the new question we're all going to be talking about soon.
And Andrea, it's not just people, because the right for so long has been saying, we want people to do it the right way. There have been people that have been doing it the right way, who go to, their court cases and are arrested there. That's the thing I can't get out of my head, is watching folks give all of their information, right, to the federal government, and then go to the court case, that case being dropped, and then being snatched up immediately, and then their family never hearing from them again. That's it has become a part of our American life that feels like it changes the psyche of the country.
Well, it means we don't have an immigration system. If you cannot follow any rules to succeed in our immigration system, we do not have one. It is currently lawless. So what is any individual supposed to do to comply with the law right now? Not go to your court hearing, not go to your ICE check-in, not put in your paperwork without exposing yourself to the one consequence that the immigration system provides, which is deportation. I want to tell everyone that for too long, the only consequence for an immigration violation, it leads to deportation. It's a one-size-fits-all solution that doesn't make any sense for people who are trying to comply and get right with the law. And it goes back to what I said. There is no way for so many of these people to get right by the law. And so it is a horrible injustice. But the president has always been honest. He thinks that any immigrant here is here illegally. He doesn't recognize legal statuses. And I'll just say, I've heard them say even things like DACA. They say we're not even recognizing deferred action anymore. Self-deport. There is no status that seems to be okay with this administration. Therefore, there's no immigration system if that's the case.
You say that Trump voters, they voted for this. This is, Trump was very clear about this. But I have to wonder, I mean, some of these videos are extremely unsettling. They're in our neighborhood. They're down the street from us. But they're also really surreal settings. I want to reference the Seattle Times article about ICE agents arresting firefighters working on a live wildfire. According to one of the firefighters who was interviewed, they were denied the chance to say goodbye to the detained crew members. I asked them if his family can say goodbye to him because they're family and they're just ripping them away, the firefighter told the Times. And this is what he said. You need to get the expletive out of here. I'm going to make you leave. I mean, is this what voters voted for? You have to wonder when it's going to sort of cross the Rubicon for people, even hardcore MAGA types who enjoy the benefits that some of these undocumented people are doing and who are an important fabric of our community. When I mean, has that taken hold yet, do you think?
I don't think so, because when you have a president of the United States using the whole bully pulpit to say that every single immigrant that they're arresting is a criminal, regardless of fact, I can see why it hasn't crossed yet. They can just lie about those firefighters in the way that they've lied about so many prominent stories. I used to work at DHS, and the number of times the secretary is commenting on individual cases and defaming people before they've had their process. But no, I mean, people don't even know that immigrants fight our wildfires. We use immigration tools like parole, which has been demonized by this administration, to bring over Mexican firefighters. There are Mexicans who were helping with the flood response in Texas. People don't know how immigrants sometimes fit in when you do not have a party often telling the other side of the story right now.
When you're talking about the fact that the White House and DHS and AG Pam Bondi lead these publicity campaigns against not just an entire population, but also against individual people, whether it's Kilmar Abrego Garcia or others. I had a lawyer tell me that they were frightened and essentially said, I don't want my client to become the next Kilmar Abrego Garcia, because we're seeing the administration, to Andrea's point, just get incredibly involved and post repeatedly about any of these immigrants that they're arresting.
Andrea, thank you so much for coming on. We will continue following the story because it is probably going to get worse.
It is. It's just the beginning.
Yeah.